What? What's happening, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight? It's good to see you. It's been a while. All right. We didn't get a chance to have a class with the Spindle TV exclusive members last night. So we're kind of doing a really bang up class tonight for everybody. It's kind of because we haven't done a live regular class in over a month. Getting back into 2026 and kicking things off. There's a lot of stuff going on over here, and just trying to get into a rhythm and figure out what's going on. I think our live events, if we do Friday live events like this, they're going to be every other week. We'll be live, and then every other week will probably be a project video that we put out. This way I can at least get on the board, because when you Google, it's kind of what I spent the end of last year, kind of, really prioritizing and everything. When we YouTube search Vectric or Vectric classes or CNC lessons or any of that stuff, I'm nowhere in the mix, right? So we got Garrett Frome, we've got Kyle, we've got Ryan over at Cutting It Close. We got everybody, but old Laney is missing. He's not in the lineup. He's not in the front page, the second page, the third page, and all that stuff. So, and it's because they don't categorize live events, and all my events are live, right? So we got to throw in some regular class recorded videos. I got to start doing some recorded videos and getting them in the mix so that that the name gets out there. All right, there we go. So, but hopefully you're all doing well. We are going to really get into a good discussion tonight. And forgive me, let me turn off the phone because everybody is going to be beeping in. All right. So hopefully you're doing well. It's great to see everybody here. I'm looking over here at all the chat. You guys are in the conversation over here to my right. Projects over here to my left. Camera's right in the middle. So we're going to try to make some eye contact, but let's get this bowl started because it's already 8:17. So I want to start out tonight with something a little uncomfortable. All right. The project we're doing tonight, at one point in time, even me, I would have looked at it and I would have said, hey, 24-inch board. It's going to take me a few hours, for, gluing up the panel, sanding it, doing a little bit of finish cleanup before I put the finish on it. And then, of course, the CNC runtime. But heck, it only cost me $20 for the board, a little bit of spray paint. And, I could sell this thing for $60, make some good money on it. And that was my mindset. Right. And, that's the exact mindset. And it's what slowly destroys, a CNC business. If you think of it like that it costs $30 or $40 to make, I'll sell it for $60, make some money. You're not alone. Everybody does that. It's emotional pricing and things like that. And so that we're going to be making this sign tonight, and we're going to actually run it when we're done. We're going to run it through the Build It TV product pricing calculator and see what actually it takes to its true costs and what it should actually sell for versus the $60. So you can actually see the real world costs and things on it. We're going to calculate that all at the end. So most CNC users, I'll tell you right now, including myself, most of us, we don't struggle with, in our business and our money and the things we make, we don't struggle because we can't design anything. We struggle because, to say it as easy as I can, we price like hobbyists, right? And we price, on what feels good, what we think is fair, what other people are doing on Facebook and all that stuff. And that's where we get into trouble. Okay. So tonight we're going to design the sign. We're going to build the toolpath, estimate the real-time production, and, the runtime on the machine as well. No emotional pricing. We're going to structurally price it, and we're going to see what we come up with. Now, the cool thing about it is hopefully by the end of the session, hopefully we're going to try to make it 90 minutes, hour and a half. So stick with me for an hour and a half. You know, I say that all the time. Well, I just snorted. I say that all the time, but I'm not, you know, we never really say, we're going to stick to it this time. But by the end of the session, we're going to know exactly why a $60 price tag is not profitable on this particular sign, or, you know, it's not just this sign. I want you to think about the mindset and everything. And we're going to actually, you know, and how it could actually be where we think a $30 board with a $5 can of paint and a $7 can of finish. Oh, heck, man, I could sell this thing for $60, you know, just an hour of my time and I'm making it. It could end up being catastrophic to us in the end because there's a lot of stuff that's being overlooked. All right, here we go. Let's switch on over to the screen. Let me find my screen. Share entire screen. There we go. Awesome, awesome. We miss you, Lainey. Thanks, Robert. That was very nice of you. That was very nice of you. I appreciate that. Miss you guys too. Now, just let you know, I put out a post last week, said we didn't have a class last week. And then in that post, I was a little ambiguous. What is ambiguous the right word? I was a little vague when I said, hey, going through some stuff right now. I need you to, you know, pray for me, right? So if any of you saw that post and any of you sent back, you know, thoughts and prayers and all that stuff, I greatly appreciate that. 100%. You have no idea. Now, just to kind of enlighten and not go into too much of my business or any of that stuff and everything, but Friday, mid-afternoon, as I'm teaching classes and stuff online and everything, I get done teaching classes online. I happen to, it was literally the day before all my little bills that get auto paid and all that stuff. They were coming in the next day. They come in like Saturday, and it was Monday as well too, and everything. So I always kind of, you know, at the end of the day, I'm kind of looking at what's going on and all my finances and all that stuff. Well, every one of my accounts got systematically hit. My checking account, the checking account that I use to care for my mother, my savings account, everything that had, you know, is in my name and all, got systematically hit. And amongst all the accounts, I was left with a negative $165,000 balance, $165,500 and some change. When I opened up my bank account screen on my app and I see this astronomical, what the hell moment, right? Excuse my language. My whole world just shut down. One, not knowing what's going on. Number two, I cannot recover from that, right? You know, if I can't get it figured out of what's happening, what's going on, I don't know what's happening. That's such a big hole. That number is so astronomical. I could never climb out of it. I could never figure it out and all that stuff. But you know, banks are FDIC insured, and there's the FBI and all that stuff. So I was on the phone with everybody, FBI, the banks, but everybody was closed. I only got a hold of the FBI, but the banks were closed until Monday. So I was like literally panic. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Finally, Monday, I got to meet with the lawyers at the bank and all that stuff and get things figured out. They're working with me. Things are kind of getting back to somewhat normal. Still, the money that was in the bank, gone. So all the money's for those bills that they didn't stop coming, right? When the money's not there, the bills don't stop coming. They're all auto pay. Couldn't shut them off fast enough in time to get them. So I got hit. But the bank worked with me on all that. I was able to call everybody, and it was just a nightmare scenario. And so I was not in the mindset, absolutely nowhere near the mindset to have a class. And even to this day, I didn't have a class. I'm still dealing with it and all that stuff, but getting through day by day, we're getting it figured out and getting things worked out. But yeah, that was a shock to the system. And it was a number that I would, if it had a plus sign in, I wouldn't be complaining, right? But no, it had a minus sign. So anyhow, that's what happened. Thank you all for your prayers and thoughts. It really meant a lot. Didn't mean to leave you hanging with no class. And I know it's been a month and all that, but it was impossible. I just couldn't. I freaked out. I shut down mentally, you know, and everything. So that's where we were. So that's how we are. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that being said, let's get back into it. And we are getting back on track. So everything is good to go. And, you know, hackers, I don't like you. Anyhow, got to say, don't be saying nothing mean just in case they're watching. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So first things first, we're going to talk about the sign and everything that I was going to, you know, I thought, you know, would be easy to make. This sign is 24 inches by 15 inches, 1 inch thick, probably 1 inch thick, possibly 1¼ inch thick. You know, we're gonna, you know, start off with probably 1.5 inch piece of material, mill it down because of the 3D model that's in there. You know, there's a very cool mountain scene, which you kind of see the grayscale of it and everything here. But the very cool mountain scene, nice frame, and all kinds of decor. We are going to touch off on the material surface, most likely, start in the bottom left corner. And I've got the resolutions turned up, the resolution turned up to extremely high. And for those of you that are new to Vectric, when you are looking at a job setup and you're setting up a job, by default, you have 3 options. You have standard, high, and very high. Now, there are 2 hidden resolutions on a job setup that when you are, after you set your job up, if you hold your shift key down, when you click on the job setup icon, then it will show you the 2 hidden options of extremely high and maximum. Now, maximum you very rarely would use unless you're actually making models or designs that you would actually sell to other CNC users and things online, because you want to make them in the highest resolution possible. You know, because you're selling that model, that actual file and stuff. And here, I just want the detail to be as crisp as possible because there's a lot of little fine areas around the trees and the river and everything. So I am in an extremely high option. And that's going to give me 8 million pixels to work with on this 24 by 15 area. Little 8 million of those little squares and all, and it's going to kind of give me some really good detail. So that's what we're going to work with. And really, you know, the higher resolutions, they really are taxing on your computer. So you want to make sure you've got a decent graphics card and, you know, CPU and everything on the computer that you're designing on. Otherwise, rendering times and toolpath calculation times and everything, they're really dragged out and slow and things. All right, so that is our setup, our job setup, 24 by 15 by, I'm going to set it at 1 inch for right now. I'll make adjustments as we go. So that's going to be the job setup. Now, as far as the image, the file that was used for the inspiration of this, this is the image, and this was prompted and made in GPT. ChatGPT made this image, and then the image was taken over to Sculpt OK to turn that image into a 3-dimensional model. Now, I've talked about Sculpt OK in the past. Now, Vectric has come out with their Easy Create, and where you can take an image and prompt it right in, and it will knock out a 3D model very cleanly and everything. It's based off the same principle as Sculpt OK. I learned about Sculpt OK from Becky over at Vectric. She put out a video showing how to you know, create 3D models from just a verbal prompt and everything. And so this was the image that was created, and that was able to be downloaded and imported into the software. Now, when it's imported into the software, there is a background. Now, I have 2 choices at this point because my project is square, the frame, is square. And so the background can either remain or I can remove it like I started doing up here, right? It just depends on what my goal is. Now, if you actually took the kind of simulated photo that inspired all this in the time and all, is this photo here, also an AI generated photo showing a kind of a finished possible look on this. We're going to make these little corner pieces. You'll see how we make those. Pretty slick, pretty cool. But from that concept, this was a concept photo. I said, hey, make me a sign that has a wide area for a name or something in the middle. And I want it to be raised with a little pocket area in the background. Really make it high end. And ChatGPT kind of took the rest on for himself and added the trees, the mountains, and the river and everything. I really liked the way it looked. I think it would have been or will be a cool sign, is a cool sign. And so then I prompted ChatGPT to make it in a grayscale, a high resolution grayscale, so that it could be brought into Sculpt OK and turned into a model. And so those prompts, the wording is very important with the prompts and everything. And so I've got a few different prompts that they're all say the same thing, but in a sense, I'm just going to give you the key one that is basically used. But basically, create a high resolution grayscale image that is blank, right? That is in a rectangular frame, in an oval frame, in no frame, that contains this, whatever you want, right? And if you do specify a frame, oval or rectangle or whatever, then you need the next sentence, the very next sentence needs to say something along the lines that everything needs to be contained within the frame. So create a high resolution grayscale image that has an oval frame of this. Everything needs to be contained within the frame. Otherwise, you in some cases you'll get spillage and all. We need it inside the frame, right? If there's no frame, you don't worry about that. But so please include, give it details. What is it? Is it going to be, a oval shaped image with the mountains in the background with a flowing water stream, whatever the description is? And the biggest sentences, or the last part of the sentences, in the highest possible resolution. I'm sorry, that's a lie. Highest possible contrast, representing a bas relief. That's a raised, relief, three-dimensional 2.5D type design, a bas relief for CNC machining. Very important. Bas relief model for CNC machining. This image must feature extremely balanced lighting with very clear, sharp contours and textures, including distinct depth levels to create a profound 3D effect. This relief itself should be made of organic shapes as though it was made of clay. That's where you get those smooth edges and stuff. With flowing lines, and design it with no undercuts, right? So that little prompt, and Becky's video on Vectric, she shows that, and it's same, wording and everything, similar wording and all. Great. It's a great class and all that stuff. But those words are what get the results. That's what gets the grayscale that's easily turned into a model using programs like Sculpt OK and things like that. But that little blurb. And the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this in 2 sentences into the chat for you all. And I think it'll do me in 2 sentences. Let's see, CNC machining. We'll see. Let's see if it takes the whole thing. Good. All right. So that's sentence number 1 in the chat. If you're signed in to your YouTube channel or to your Google account, then you should be able to see the chat so that you can copy these things. So that's the first part. Here's the second part. And the final part, right? If you're using a program like ChatGPT to make the 3D contours or the relief models, that the relief images to turn into a model that you want to use with Create a Carve and or Carve Easy Create, sorry, and things like that. These is a good prompt. But Easy Create, you actually, I mean, it's pretty much kind of got that built into it. You know, Vectric kind of, you know, they built it into it. It's pretty easy to get something really cool out of the Vectric Easy Create now. All right. There you go. There's three messages in the chat. And in that order, that's the prompt. And then basically where you kind of see the parentheses, you know, frame is optional, please include, and then describe what you want here, right? That's where you just give it some description, what you want and everything. All right, let's get out of this and let's get back to the design. Now, when trying to remove the background for this design, my light just blinked. When trying to move the background for this design and everything, design time, you know, plays a role. You know, design time, tool pathing and all. We're going to talk about toolpath strategies and everything in just a moment. And we're really going to kind of, you know, hit on that in just a second. But on this one, normally I would take a grayscale or a 3D model and import it, and I would go into the trace tool and convert it to a black and white. Okay. And then I would slide the slide bar all the way over in one direction or the other until I got the white area. The white area is the detail that I want the line to be drawn around. So between that light, that white and black that you see here on the screen, you know, I want to slide the slide bar to where, you know, I get the best detail. Well, in most cases, in most models, just literally only have to slide it to maybe like a 12, 11, 10 or something like that. And it creates a perfect black and white outline of your design, trace it, and use the tools in the software to remove everything outside the vector, right? You know, easy peasy. Well, on this image, I could do that on here. I could do that with the top part and get it done in sections, right? So I had to trace the top part, and then I had to do it a second time to get a little bit further down, and do it a third time, because as I got to here, all the detail up at the top got deteriorated in the image. So I had to be able to get the lower lines and stuff. Well, on the lower lines, this is not the outline of that model. Okay, so if we looked at the actual model in the 3D view and everything, and let me turn up my resolution. It's up, okay. In the 3D view, that little swirl, well, the whole leaf was missing, right? Hey, Johnny, welcome from Blakely. That relief is missing, or the leaf, not the relief, the leaf was missing in that little, you know, in that tracing and everything. That detail was gone. So if I would have used the vector that would have gotten drawn, and I would have told it to remove everything outside of the vector, all of the detail, like the detail of some of the rocks and everything, would have been disappeared. Okay, so this is where I have to make, you know, decisions, not just decisions on this design, but decisions financially, you know, on what's going to be, you know, too costly, what's going to, you know, not be, and all that stuff. If I just leave the design, with the background in it, let me turn the vectors off for a second. I could pretty much just put the frame around the outside. Not pretty much, I could put the frame around the outside, put the text in, and have this done in literally 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if I take the time to trace, like you see these vector lines here, take the vector line here and the model and say, hey, remove everything within the vectors, and I start removing that background, well, I have to be able to come in and draw the line on that background. I've got to be able to draw the line. So tracing it didn't work. So what am I left to do? Well, the only thing that I'm left to do is using the freehand draw tool and actually freehand drawing the profile, and then coming in and fine-tuning the profile with node editing all the way around. Now, easy enough. When I'm not talking or explaining it and everything, I can literally do that probably in about 10 or 15 minutes, nice and slow with my mouse. I love using a tablet with a stylus and everything, but I don't have that hooked up right now. But I'm better with a stylus than I am with a mouse and everything. And I apologize. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, y'all haven't seen me in a while. Those alerts that you hear going off, that's my daughter. She's the only one that can break through, my daughter and my mother, the only one that can break through the do not disturb. But she's texting me. I'm going to be a grandfather. So that she just went, they just went to their second ultrasound yesterday. And so I'm getting lots of pictures, but I'm also, they're designing their nursery. And guess who the woodworker is that's going to be making the busy board for the wall, the name sign for the wall, anything that the cradle, we're making a cradle, and some other things, right? So the woodworker grandpa is going to be busy in the shop making baby stuff. Now, the cool thing about it is I'm born in September. The baby's due in September. It's going to be a little Virgo. It's going to be a boy. So his name is Bo Gale Howell. Howell, Howell, but Bo is... Yeah, he's gonna make me a grandpa. So anyhow, so those little messages, I apologize. That's the only one that's beeping through the do not disturb. So she's sending pictures because the next sign that goes on the wall, she wants it to match the green, forest green color of the crib. So that's what the details are. Anyhow, all right. So as I was saying, if I wasn't describing this and everything like that, I would be just hand tracing this out. And like I said, I'm much better with a stylus than a mouse, but I don't know why my light keeps flashing, but I can pretty much, I've got enough that I can start to somewhat outline and get what I need around and everything on the image. And then I can always go in and fine tune, do a little bit of node editing afterwards to fine tune the finish. And so this process, just to remove the background from the image, that process and everything, I have to decide, is it going to benefit the finished project? Is it going to give me something, you know, provide me something with a better finish or something that's going to benefit the project? That's, you know, or is it just going to just take my time? Because labor is much more costly than machine time and tool pass and runtime. We'll talk about that in a minute. And so labor, hands-on design time, you know, talking with the customers, all those labor costs that go into it and everything, that's a little bit more costly. So the labor cost is a little higher than the machine cost. So you gotta balance what you want. Now, in this situation, the removing the background, if I were going to remove the background, the only thing that would benefit me, oops, I drew a line there. The only thing that would benefit is, let me turn the thing around here, is on the edges that get removed, I would be able to add a draft to this model, give it a little bit of an angle, but I would be able to raise this up and make it as thick as I wanted inside the pocket of the frame. Let me hit undo on the freehand and the reset component and put the background back in there. And if you notice, the top of the frame right here, let me turn off the vectors here. The top of the frame isn't that high off of this background. So even if I just wanted to do a pocket cut, remove some of the material with a pocket cut, I still have to create the vector, right? I got to create the vector to say, hey, remove this area. So I would still have to draw around all of that with my freehand tool and remove all of this, whether it's the machine removing it with a pocket cut tool path, or me removing it with the, clear everything out of the model and making my own background as deep as I want. I think I'm losing my studio light. Sorry about the blinking. If anybody's got, reactions to blinking lights, it's going crazy. So the benefit to taking that time and all, I have a little bit more control on the model as far as how thick the model is going to be sticking up in the pocket and all that stuff. If I don't do that, then I'm kind of on the back end or the top end, I'm a little weak, right? It's a little light. And there's no, with this whole block is one model. It's not two separate pieces. It's not this oval sitting on top of here. When Sculpt OK created the image, the model, did I close them down? I must have closed them down. Let me see here. Oh, I opened the wrong thing. When Sculpt OK created the model, it created the background. Now, I could have told Sculpt OK to remove the background, but when I remove the background, then it only removes the top half because it can't even draw the vectors. But it only removes the top half. And then the edges, I don't know if you can see, the edges are a little rough right here, right? So it's easier for me to draw the vectors and remove them and to be able to do that than trying to let this do it, because it's kind of really destructive here. You know, it's in the Sculpt OK, it's destructive. I don't want to destroy that model. I'd much rather spend the extra time, drawing that frame out and clearing it out. Okay, so think about that. All right, now we are not going to clear it out. We're going to use it as is, and because we're going to focus on putting the text in here, putting the frame and everything in here, and we're going to get that looking, really decent and everything. And so here, what we're going to do is I'm going to close out of this. First things first, my project is 24 by 15. So my model, this model area, I want it to only be maybe 20 inches wide. The mountain scene and everything, I don't want it going all the way to the edge and all. So I have to build up this area around the outside of the model to kind of fill it in, because right now it's not in everything. You can see the dark shadow here. That's my board. That's my 24 by 15 and everything there. So I got to kind of fill that in. And so this depth right here is about 0.2635. I can tell that by looking at the number, you guys can't see it at the bottom of the screen because I'm in the way, but at the bottom of the screen of the Vectric software, when you move your mouse over a number, it shows you your X, Y, and Z, wherever that mouse is. And that flat area, you know, because there's a little bit of texture in that flat area and everything, but mostly we're about 0.2619, 26, 15, 142. So there's a little bit of texture that's causing, you know, that little rise in texture and everything that's causing a little bit of a little bit of variation in sign, but about 0.2635 is where we're going to be. So what I have to do is I got to draw a rectangle around the entire project. Now, the combine mode of these two things, the model that's here that came from Sculpt OK that I just imported in, and this border, they're going to merge together so it kind of blends. Now, technically, it's going to have a slight little different smooth versus that little texture all the way around, but I have the ability to, you know, create textures and things like that if I need to. You know, it's just like a little bit of rough up. But here we go. We're going to go into a flat shape here, and we're going to make it 0.2635, I think I said it was, and I want to merge that in. On the combine mode, merge that. Let me make sure so everybody can see. When I merge that. Burns, when you take us out of the shop when you do your baby creations, yeah, man, I sure will. I'm going to be taking you out to the shop a little bit more this year, a lot more this year, once I get things set up out there to actually do like actual shop lessons, because we're going to start talking, you know, we're going to really start talking about systems and things like that. Speaking of systems and everything, all that wonderful jazz, coming out very, very, very soon, like literally within a week or so, we are going to, my book is going to hit Amazon, The Art of Precision. It's going to be basically a professional guide to CNC craftsmanship, systems, and sustainable profit, right? So the creating systems, you know, in the beginning of this book, you're going to learn the basics and what CNC machining is. You're going to learn about what designs are and tool paths and CAD CAM and different things. But as the book progresses and all, you're going to start learning about the difference between hobbyists and, you know, business, as far as creating systems and, thinking more about costs and stuff like that. And by the end of the book, you're really going to have hopefully a totally different mindset of the way that you approach your CNC machining and everything. So I'll let everybody know when it's available on Amazon, but I would appreciate it if you guys support it, because it's definitely something that I keep saying, got to stop that too. It's definitely a book that you will have in your shop, and it's not just a book that you read and put on the shelf. It'll be a tool that you use regularly. So there's all kinds of cool information in the back of it and all that stuff too. So that's my little promotion for the night. Now, coming in here and everything and all, the project here, the board that I created and all, I can go ahead and play with this and everything, but look what happens when I come in and try to fill in that area. The area fills in and I lose all the detail. So I can't just have the big old slab, the whole thing, that whole rectangle being the model that I'm trying to combine, because when I bring it up, even though I'm bringing it up to the level of that initial background and stuff, I'm still I'm losing the detail in the center on the inside. So we need to remove everything from the inside and just focus on the outside. However, I do not want to use my model boundary, which is here. I do not want to use that as the boundary that that I clip to, that I removed from, or whatever. You know, if you're in Vectric, VCarve Desktop, or Pro, clipping, right? And this little flat background, you can actually do this with VCarve Pro and everything. There's models, components that come with the software, and there's square tabs that you can size up, square flat tabs that you can size up and things to make this kind of background, because you can't actually build the model in VCarve Desktop or Pro, but you can use existing models, those flat, the domes, dishes, the flat tabs, and all that stuff to create this same square background. And you would be using clipping to remove certain parts of it. Well, in this case, if I clipped right up to this border, then I would have some funky little debris and stuff where the two, and I'd have like little gaps and everything. So I need my little frame model to kind of go inside this model bit. So what I need to do is I need to offset. I need to offset this vector. And with the offset tool, I'm going to offset it in just so it overlaps. A small little offset just so it overlaps. I'm going to offset it inward, and 1/8 of an inch is fine. It could be smaller than that too. I mean, it really only needs to be a few thousandths, but I'll go 1/8 of an inch. Now, what this does is this gives me a line that I can use to clear everything inside on my component. This component, let me make this bigger. Let me see if it'll make this window bigger. This component right here, let me see how you guys see me on the screen there. Yeah, component number 1, this is that kind of base, right? That's the secondary base. And let me just outer base, I'm going to call it. Just so naming, creating systems, everybody, creating systems. Outer base area. Not just using the default generic names, component 1, component 2, VCarve 1, profile 1, pocket 1, pocket 2, pocket 3. Name your toolpaths, name your layers, name your components. Create systems. Systems cut down on time. They're repeatable. No guessing, none of that stuff. Time is money. All right, let's outer base area. With that selected and that vector selected, I can now go over and clear area inside of the selected component. So I can get rid of that so that my area here is, picked up. Now, that area is not my frame, so I do not want it higher than the model. So what I want to make sure of is that, and this is where we kind of get a little technical and stuff, I want to bring it down to where it just almost virtually disappears. The only problem with that is the base of my model isn't truly flat, right? So it is higher on one side than it is the other, and that's another thing to contend with. That's why I like removing the background, removing the inconsistencies, and making it consistent. If I take, this is the lesson, okay? If I take the 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it takes, however long it takes me to draw this, and it wouldn't actually take me 10 minutes if I wasn't talking. I could just knock it right out, and we probably will. To remove that background completely so I can create my own level background, those minutes spent doing that will certainly be less time than spending all the time trying to get my front and my back to blend, tilt and fade and all of that stuff, and dealing with all that and trying to get it perfect and blah, 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 blah. There's balances, right? You gotta pick your battles, right? And the battle you pick might not be the winning battle, right? The battle you pick may not be the winning battle, but you learn from it, right? You learn from it, do it differently the next time around, right? Right now, if I sat here with you and I spent 20 minutes trying to get this model perfectly tilted and all that so the background somewhat blends and blah, 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 then that's time that I'm wasting of yours and mine and all that wonderful stuff. Now, if I were going to attempt that, right, the first thing I would try to do is in the properties, I would try to tilt it because it's got a little bit of a lean to it, right? And this is the fiddling part, right? If I come in here and I tilt, and let's say that I want to tilt is putting a wedge under the part. The first click is the thin part of the wedge. The second click is the thick part of the wedge. Well, I need the thick part of the wedge to be back here, you know, in the back. So the first click, that little anchor with the number 1 on it, you can barely see on the screen, but there's a number 1 next to it. If I click that, that's my first click. That's the thin part of the wedge. If I come straight back here and click here, that's the thick part of the wedge, okay? Now, as I tilt this model, I'm lifting up that back end, all right? So my job would be to somewhat try to make the difference between the front and the back a little closer to consistent. Let me see if I can turn this sideways a little bit. Let me turn it sideways so I can see here. What I'm focusing my eyes on is here and back here, right? Because it's a flat thing. So if I was tilting this and everything, my job, my goal, should I say, is to try to bring it up to where there is a level of consistency, bear with me, that I could then try to adjust now that I'm a little evener. Evener? Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word or not. But anyway, now that I'm a little bit more even, I can try to adjust this down to get close. Okay? So get close. Let me bring it down a little bit more. I'm going to call that close. And then a whole nother step, I would go into the, at this point, I would go into my components. I wouldn't go into my components. I would go down to my model parts and I would create a new component from this visible model right here. I wouldn't screw with my originals, leave them intact. So I'm going to come in here and create a model, turn off my originals, and I'm working with just this copy. Step, after trying to get it somewhat tilted and level, I would go into the sculpting tool and I would crank up the smoothing, crank up the size of my diameter, and I would start rocking out to see if smoothing is going to get me what I need, or if it's going to, not, right? So I would try to smooth that out to try to make that frame completely disappear. And again, time, when I could have just drawn the line, removed the model and made my own and been done with it, right? Because I'm never going to get this hump right here smooth unless I do some kind of, build up some material and putty it and all that stuff, right? All the little stuff back here, all the stuff that's close together, sure, I can, you know, crank that and start to smooth that out all the way across the back and everything, but it's never going to be right. I'm going to fiddle and fiddle and fiddle and fiddle and fiddle, and that's just wasted time, okay? Now, I'm wasting this time right now doing this just to show you so you know what I'm talking about, right? We could be here for a long time trying to get this perfect, and it won't be perfect. There's still going to be a hump there and da-da-da-da-da, whatever. Now, I'm not going to save those changes. Not going to save those changes. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here on these components, and I'm going to turn off this copy and turn my originals back on. And I don't even need the other outer base one on right at this time. What I do need on is just the model that I'm trying to clean up. Now, what I need to do is I need to get the vector back. Let me go back to the 2D view here. And the vector that was around here, I'm going to delete these two so we can kind of do this from scratch so you can see what's happening here. I want to get rid of everything that's in there. Here is the approach, okay? This is how I would address this, knowing what I just discovered, right? You learn from your mistakes and you do it differently the next time around. The next time around, when I tell GPT to make something, I'm going to tell it to make it with a white background. No, just kidding. No background. But anyhow, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to go into the components. We're going to turn on the model. And on the model, I'm going to right-click and turn the appearance fading, because when you're not on the model, it's faded out. When you're on the model, it's not faded out. That's called the appearance. When you right-click on the component, or a picture, if it was a picture too, I want to turn that fading off, so that I can see this whether I'm clicked off of it or not. I still see it. I see all the detail in the lines and all that jazz, right? Because I've got to remove that, that background. I got to draw lines around it. Now, here's the thing. The lines I'm drawing are going to be black if I keep them on the layer, layer 2 where I'm drawing here. If I keep that layer black, it's going to be black. I would probably want a very high contrasting vector that when I am drawing the lines and everything, when I create the vector and I'm following the outline and stuff, I can see it, right? I can see it and everything. Blaze, did we get an autographed copy? The Spindle TV exclusive members most likely will. Yes. We'll see about that, but we'll talk about that for sure. All right. The contrast, when I'm drawing the lines and everything, now I can see them right on this black. I can draw them and I can see what I've drawn and all that stuff. By the way, if you let go of your mouse, because you got to reposition your mouse, you hold the control key down when you're going to continue the line, and then it snaps to the line. Okay. Now, when I'm actually working on the model, I'm going to do my best to get up close and everything. And on my smoothing and my stabilization, I might be a little shaky handed, right, with the mouse or stuff like that. So I might want to turn that stabilization up and the smoothing and all. Or I might want to not have it up so much so that when I do what I am tracing and everything, I'm fairly close to what I want. Now, in gaps like this between the rocks and the water, here, this is water, in here, that's all open, and I've got to decide if I actually want to go in there and remove that area or if I want to continue. And that's what node editing after the fact is going to do for me. Okay. So I want to help myself first by trying to eliminate what I can automated. So my first thing before I really get drawing and all is come in here, turn the appearance down. Like I said, right click, go to appearance, turn the fading down on that. Now I'm going to go into the trace tool. I'm going to try to create vectors. I know I can create the top ones, but I'm going to try to create as many vectors as I can automatically before I start having to clean up with the trace. So here we go. So first things first, I'm going to turn it to a black and white. Now here it's black and white, right? So black is the area that I don't want. White is, I want a nice, to the best of my ability, I want the white to be a nice solid outline of my model. I do not care about being inside the mountains and everything. I want those mountains filled in with the frame and everything. I want a nice solid outline because what I'm trying to do is create one solid line around the edges that gets rid of the outside. My detail's my detail. I'm not getting rid of that. I need a nice clean line. Now, let's do this side by side for a moment here. I'm sorry, that's a lie, not side by side. Let's close this for a quick second here, and let's look at here. So I have these clouds and everything. They're in the background. They're kind of low. They're black. So the lowest part of the model is black, then all the gray to white, white being the tallest part of the model. This model, these clouds and all, some of the detail and everything, it's going to be lost, right? I'm not going to get the, the gray. I can try my best to get some of that and everything, but if I have to sacrifice something, I'm not opposed to it, as long as it's not critical to the design. So when I'm opening up the trace tool and I'm inside here, I have to determine when I slide that slide bar forward and everything, what am I keeping and what am I getting rid of? What's going to give me the best look? And if I zoom out on this situation here, on the top part, let me get the 3D view turned back up. Right there we go. On the top part here, I want probably right there. I'm going to be the thickest part of my border and all that stuff. So I'm going to trace it. Default corner fit. I'll turn up the noise filter to a 4 and I'll hit preview. And I've got a good starting line around here already all the way around. Now, the question is, when I close this tool and everything, the things right immediately, now the things that are not going to help me, get rid of them. Ungroup the vectors, because 90% of the time they're going to be grouped and all, and go in there and get rid of the stuff that you don't care about, right? Get it out of your way. Go in there and get it gone, okay? All you care about is the outside line and everything. Now, let me get rid of the line I drew there. And this vector here, now this vector goes all the way around. And then this vector right here, the one I actually care about, is the one that goes around this model. So this one here, I don't care about it. Gone. It does nothing for me. My job is, in this inside stuff, get rid of it. Go away. All right, all the inside stuff, and you can do that after the fact. You can do whatever, but just get rid of it, because all we care about is the outside line. And, sorry, on here we have 2 big openings. I want that cleared away too, inside here. So those 2 openings, definitely want that gone. But everything else is the outside. I do not want, now these are holes. I have to kind of choose and pick my battles and all. Do I want because wherever I keep a vector, that material is getting removed. I want to keep the material there. I don't want that removed. This is not actually a hole because it's going to create a hole through the board. It's a shadow. So this and this go away. It's not a cut through. That's a shadow, right? There's wood under there. Same thing here. That's a shadow. It's not a cut through. There's something underneath. So now when I deleted something just a second ago, it got rid of everything. So you got to pay attention to what you're deleting. So that one vector right there that I clicked on, that it got rid of everything. So don't accidentally delete what you need, right? All right, let's get rid of this. Oh, be careful what you're selecting on. Don't delete your model. Nope, I just deleted the model. I just said don't delete it. All right, so now the hole, now that's a hole through there where the rocks are in the border and stuff. That yellow outline right there, I got to decide, do I want it hollow there, you know, like the top and all that stuff? Do I want to kind of break it away? Sure, I'll leave it there. But as long as the rest of my model, there's some kind of meat around it. If it's a floating rock where it's not actually connecting with the frame or something else, then no, I don't want just that rock floating there and all, because that's a piece that's just going to fall off the CNC. There's nothing there, right? So that one is going to go away. So we, you know, let that rock go bye-bye. All right, so now this line is going around it. It did go in there like I like it and all that wonderful jazz. In here, node editing is what I would do if I wanted to tighten up the corners. So if I wanted to bring this line a little bit more over and up, whatever the case may be, to kind of get in there a little bit more, I can do that. Spend a little bit of time. Don't spend forever now. Just do what you can to get by. This right now is pretty substantially well. I'm good with this because I'm going to be creating a draft on it, so it's not going to affect it whatsoever. So as I come around here, if I had to draw this, I would pretty much draw it exactly like it is. Now, if my line were in the model or something, node editing pulls it out. Just like up here, my tree does go in and there is nothing under the tree, so that's good. Here, this is not only taking the tree, but also the clouds into consideration. It's taking the clouds into consideration. And here is an open space, so it's all the way through. That's fine. It'll be just like these two up here. This is trash. I don't want that. Get rid of all the vectors before you do the slash trim, the next step we're about to do, because it's going to get rid of everything that's in the line. Now, here is my issue. My leaf got cut off. It's missing there, and I'm going into the wood here. Don't want that. So node editing to the rescue. Go in here. I actually want, this is my model out here. It's hard to see in the video. It's hard to see, but my model actually comes out here. So I need to really kind of pull this out more and down right there, and then pull this down to widen it up because my leaf is actually out here. And I need it to stop here. So these nodes, I'm going to hit the letter D on the keyboard and delete them. This one too, D on the keyboard for delete, because I actually need to kind of just come into here. Now I want to get a little bit into that corner, right? So I can either one of two things. I either put a point there so that I can really, don't do that. Hold on. I put a point there so that I can pull that up into here a little bit more, and I can narrow the gap a little bit and stuff so I can get up there a little bit better. I'm going to pull this down a little, and I'm going to turn this up. Bring this in a little bit. If I cut off some of the edge, that's fine. I just don't want to cut off all the edge. Like on the leaf here, I don't want to cut off all the edge. I want to come around. It's hard to see. It's really hard to see those gray pixels and all, but they're there. So I want my model to actually come this way. So let me draw this. I want it to kind of come around. And here I created a cross on my line, untangle that, delete the points if you got to delete the points if they're in your way or if they're doing something, if you don't need them, right? But, you know, get rid of what you don't need, keep what you do need, all that good jazz, right? So try to delete as many points as you can to create the line that you need. Here, I'm going to delete this point here and here. Oops. We're almost done. Delete this point here. And I'm going to drag this point back to here. Get rid of that one. And it's hard to see, but I want to be out a little bit more. So I need to pull this out, this whole line. Pull this out this way. Because I do not want that leaf cut off. I want it in the model. And the leaf was getting taken away because it wasn't quite dark enough. Or light, I'm sorry, it wasn't quite light enough. I said that opposite. Okay. Now, get rid of the junk. I am going to call that, I'm content with that. Okay. So here we go. Now I can come in here and select my component. I can select the vector. Let me get out of node editing mode. That would help. I can select the component and I can select that vector here. That one I want to use. This one I want to use. This and this. And simply go in to the tool and clear everything outside the vector. So hold on a second. This one gets turned off right now, that one, and that one for right now. Because the first one is clearing everything outside of the vector away. Okay. Then select that vector here, here, and here. And that's clearing everything inside. Oops, I got one more vector down here. Select the model. And that's clearing everything inside the vector, right? To open those areas up. Now, the background is gone. Mine now to do whatever I want with it. So in this case now, if I take my boundary and I create my flat background, and let's say I bring this up to, we'll just go 0.375 for right now and merge it in. Wait for it. Create. Oh, I forgot to name the component. Go back. This is going to be my base model component. All right. Now you can see here, when I move this up and everything, I have control now. I have control of how high that is on the frame, how thick my border is. Everything is nice and smooth all the way around it. I have total control now in everything. Ooh, become a member. Thank you. Thank you, Timothy, for promoting that. Become a member. All right. I have total control. Now, the first thing I want to do is a draft, because when I cleared away all of that excess material and all, it left just kind of a straight meat, you know, I call it meat. It left kind of a straight meat, you know, in the background and everything. Now, if, let's say I only had a certain amount of material to work with. Let's say I only had a 3/4 inch board to work with. I didn't have an 1.5 inch board and all. And I needed this model to be, you know, a little bit thinner to fit in a 3/4, but I don't want to sacrifice my model detail. Well, that base meat on the back end here, in some cases, I can remove that cleanly, right straight across. But you got to be careful. Remember, this thing was at a tilt. You know, we knew that from earlier and all. But I could take off a little bit of that meat, and the more that I can take off the back is the less I have to take off on the detail in the front when I'm flattening it down to raise the height, right? So if I can do that, I do that. And in Aspire, we have an ability to do that very cleanly. In VCard Pro and Desktop, it's a little bit more tricky and everything, but you know, there's ways. Okay, so I want my edges to have a slight angle to them because number one, it'll clean up the edges. Okay, number one, it'll give me a little bit cleaner edges and everything. Nice little transition. And then with my background and everything, it'll look like the model's actually flowing into the background instead of just, you know, sitting on it with straight walls and everything. It's going to look like it has a little bit of a flow. So first things first, in my component, turn off the base. Only have what you want visible that you're creating your draft on. Make sure that's the only thing that's visible. Now, there are two models that get imported when you do it from Sculpt OK. And one is called the base bottom, which is just all it is. It's like think of it like a zero plane. There's no height plane and everything. You can actually, you know, either delete that out of your project or keep it, whatever you want. Your model's actually usually the one that's labeled top when it brings in the two layers and everything. All right, so on this, make sure it's the only thing that's visible, and then we're going to create a draft. So on the draft, I can go, I don't want to go crazy. I don't want a big draft. I want just a nice subtle angle so it's not straight, just a nice little angle. 15 degrees looks good, 22.5 degrees looks good, 30 degrees. I kind of put a hard stop at 30 because you can only go up to 45, but kind of put a hard stop at 30, and it's kind of never really a go-to. My go-to is either 15 or 22.5. And so in this case, I kind of want to go the 22.5. So 22.5 degree, we're going to click apply. Now it's going to freeze me up. It's going to freeze me. I meant to say it's going to freeze me before I actually hit the button, but I hit the button before I could say it's going to freeze me up. So when this model is rendering, the draft is rendering, it's a major toll on the computer. So it freezes up the stream, the outfeed, and everything. So I froze for a second. I'll come back in a minute. You'll see me moving in just a minute. I think there's a delay from what I'm saying to what you're seeing. So, but yeah, I tried to say it's going to freeze me, but I hit the button. I clicked first. Okay. Now what this does is it gives me a nice slight little angle. It kind of cleans up and smooths out those edges and gives me a little angle. It's a very small angle, 22.5 degrees. You can't really even tell and everything. But now when I turn on, here's the new model with a 22-degree draft. That's the new one. The original is here. I can turn it off because I have the new one. Rename it. Don't just leave it model with 22-degree draft, right? So this is my mountain scene. Mountain scene with draft. And I'll put the 22.5. Okay. So that's that. Now, when I turn on the base again, okay, now I have, you can see, let me make the base a little bit thicker. Got a little bit of an anomaly right there. Hold on a second. Bear with me a minute. Okay, had a little bit of a video anomaly. Would you do a Sculpt OK class? Yeah, I've done a Sculpt OK class. I'll definitely do a Sculpt OK class again. Burns and blue. The what am I trying to say? I'll definitely do a Sculpt OK class, but also short, direct, to the point video. Vectric Ltd on YouTube. Vectric Ltd. Go to their channel. Scroll down to probably about 7 rows, and Becky does a class on how to create a 3D model. A clean 3D model. I forget what the exact title is, but how to create a 3D model and component. And she does a beautiful job of describing it as well too. So I'm just giving you another source. But yes, I can absolutely do that. All right, now let me go back in here to the base model here. And on the base model, again, let me get things centered again. Get here. So on the base model, I now have total control of how much I have sticking up, how much of the water and all I have sticking up and everything here. It's all flat. There's no tilting or fading or none of that stuff. So I have total control. I could have it shallow. I could have it deep. I could have it whatever I want. Now in this situation, I just want a bit of a shallow pocket. I don't want it very deep, but I do want that little bit of rise. Okay. And I don't want to go crazy and go deep. I want just a little bit of rise. So here, coming around here, I'm at 0.4159 at the bottom of the screen. You can't see it because I am in the way and I just made myself bigger like a goofball. But down here at the bottom, when clicking on that 0.4159, I'm going to make it just a nice even 0.4375. Hit that enter key. Number there. Perfect. Now I've got a nice blend of everything that I want. Okay, we got to move on because we still got to put text on this thing. And we're already hour and 18 minutes into this hour and a half class. All right, first of all, save your work. Save early, save often, ladies and gentlemen, because it sucks to lose it. All right. Now, I want a 1 inch to 1.5 inch frame around this, whatever looks contextually clean. Okay, whatever looks good and everything. And so here, back in my 2D view with my rectangle border right here, I'm going to offset this inward. And at this point, these lines, I'm going to keep them there. I should put them on a new level or a new layer, sorry, not level, to move them out of the way. So let's move those to a new layer. Got to name my layer too, but this is going to be my, actually, no, I'm so sorry. These are junk. These are from the old one. So they go away. Give me a second. Those are junk. That was, oh, stop. That was my vectors that were used to create that little offset for those 2 uneven areas and everything. So this right here is my emblem vector. So move to a new layer, emblem vector. We'll leave it yellow. That's fine. And then this, I'm going to offset first, and then I'll put both of them on their layer. But this is going to go offset inward, and I'm going to do an 1.5 inch frame, 1.5 inch frame. So 1.5 square corners. Ooh, yeah, that looks good. Okay. 1.5 inch frame. Oh, no, hold on. 1.25 inches. There's something else I got to add to this. Hold on a second. Let's do 1.25 inches or 1 inch. Let me see here. 1.25. Let me see what that looks like. Yes, 1.25 inches. And then we're going to do something a little different in just a second. But these two vectors, the two outside vectors here, they are going to get moved to their own layer. And this is going to be my frame vectors. And I'm going to make them like a blue, or something, just you won't be able to see them in the with this dark border on, but I can, if I turn that off, you'll be able to see them there, and all that wonderful jazz. All right. So I'm going to make them blue there for now. And now I'm going to select both of those. Follow along with me here for a second. I want on this frame, I want it to have either a rounded over edge or a chamfered edge on both sides and everything, one or the other. If I wanted to get fancy, I could do a chamfered edge on the inside, rounded edge on the outside when I'm creating this component and all that. But I'm just going to do one or the other, rounded and all. So I need to know that before I either create a angular shape or a rounded shape, right? I need to know if I want roundovers or I want chamfers and everything. I think this would look sharp with a chamfer going on the outside edge, but also a chamfer on the inside edge going into the plane and all. So I'm going to use an angular shape. Profile is going to be, I'm going to go with a 30-degree chamfer. Now, the limit is the trick of it all, the limit. Let me put myself back up so you can see me. The limit is the trick of it all. Now, right now, I'm doing a 30-degree angle, okay? So if we look at it in the 3D view right now, full-on 3D view, it is a 30-degree angle, a pyramid all the way around, okay? Don't want that. I want it flat on the top, and I want the little chamfer. So the next line down is the limit. The limit. Let me make it bigger. I got to switch. I don't know why I'm not the popular one. Here we go. Okay. So the next line down is the limit. This is where the key is. The limit is saying, okay, am I going to go up 10% and then flatten out? Am I going to go up 20% of that pyramid and then flatten out 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or I'm just going to run the full 100? Well, in this case, if I set it to, let's say, 20% on that pyramid, it's going to go up that 20% and then it's going to come over. And that is going to determine my chamfer, right? So it's how wide or narrow it is. Now, if I went 40%, then it's going to go up 40% and then chamfer. So it makes my chamfer larger and wider, okay, and everything. So it really depends on what I want. All right, what I want. And the, it's really, that's what really makes the difference. Well, I want to come in 20%. Now, here's the key. On the frame here, I want the frame to kind of be as high. The frame's a little weak. You know what I mean? It's not as high as the model. You see that? It's only sitting. It's literally that pyramid. All I did was create I haven't created the base to it yet, right? So I just took that pyramid and said, okay, go up 20% and flatten off. And the pyramid's only that tall, It's basically 0.0844. Here's the total height right now. There's no base to it. So the next thing down, I want to preserve the internal corners on the inside, but now I want to give it its base height. Now my base over here, remember, is that 0.4940 is the base here. And I want to be, I'm going to go about, and up at the top here, I'm all the way up to, that 1.5 inches or whatever, but I'm going to go with my base height. I'm going to give it a base height to start off with as a 1/2 inch of a 1/2 inch. And then I got to decide, all right, now my chamfer is looking a little weak, right? My frame is heavy, and everything. And I've got to decide now aesthetically, and again, not wasting too much time on this and stuff, but now I want a little bit more of a chamfer. 20% chamfer is a little weak. So here I'm going to jack it up. Let's go to and also you can also change your angle too if you want to, 45 and all that stuff. But I'm going to go 35%. And on that 35%, I'm going to lower that frame down a little bit to, let's say, 0.375, the base. Okay. And now, if I look at this straight from the side, I'm literally looking to see if there's anything sticking over the frame. I can also look at that by closing this out for a minute. I can also look at that by, first of all, making sure that my model is positioned properly in my material. My 1-inch material, I'm at 0.9722, so there's not a whole lot of positioning. It is what it is. I'm close to that 1 inch and everything. And if I look at, it's called, the scale Z height of the model. Let me find that button right here. If I look at this, the minimum Z, right, which is the top of the board, is 0. If this number was a negative number, it would mean that I have something sticking above the top of my board. Like my model is actually, it would be an error, basically. My board isn't thick enough to compete with my model and everything. So I'm at 0.9722. And if you look very closely, it's hard to see zoomed out, but I've zoomed out for a reason, because when you zoom in, you really can't see it. But there's a little bit of the center emblem right there. So if I tilt this ever so slightly, oops, a little bit of this is sitting here. Now here's the key to it all. I still have to add text to the banner, the name. So that's going to increase the height. So I'm going to end up reducing all of the center down so that the name and everything kind of falls within the frame. So what I need to do is just make sure my frame is the height that I want, and then the inside is the height that I want. I want my frame to, I've got a 1-inch piece of material, let's say, a 1-inch piece of material here, and I'm at 0.97. I'm going to try to stay within that 1 inch. Even when I add the name, I got to just lower things down. And when I lower things down, I'm going to increase my base so it all balances out nice and pretty and all that wonderful stuff. But I'm going to try to stay within that 1 inch, that 0.9722. So I'm good there. I don't need to flatten out any of the detail or any of that stuff. Let's make the text really quickly. Now, I am on this. I got a newborn baby coming, right? So I'm going to put his name, and I'm just going to put like September of 2026, because I don't know exactly what date. I told her, I said, if she could, really try for the 17th. They said something around the 26th or 20 something. I said, shoot for the 17th. Push out early, whatever you got to do. All right, so here we go. Let's add some text in here. All right. Now, I also have to decide, do I want all the letters to be capitalized and blah, whatever that. I'm going to go with normal title capitalization, means the first letter of each word is capitalized, right? So we're going to go with that route. We'll start with that first. Now, I don't want a fancy scripty text and all that stuff. I want something, you know, authoritative and all that good jazz. So we will see what we get and what we've got. Now, Black River Bold is always kind of a favorite of mine. And here's the deal. I want to go with a 1 inch. That's a lie. 1 1/4 inch tall text. I'm going to move it into position. It's got a curve to it, right? So when I'm in the text tool, I have 2 green nodes, one at the top, one at the bottom. That's going to allow me to curve the text. So I'm going to curve it slightly, and I'm going to kind of follow. This is too much of a bend, just so you know. I'm really close here and here, but I'm really gapping there. I'm kind of like, you know. So we want a curve, but we want a nice flowing curve, right? So it kind of flows with it and everything. And we'll get it into position. Now, I want to center it as well, too. Now, my model, if I didn't screw up, my model should be centered. It probably is not. So let's center it. Let's select this whole model component on the inside and center it on the board. That plays a major role. It wasn't centered at all. It wasn't centered at all. All right, so that plays a major thing. Okay, so let's oh, bear with me a second. Now, my appearance on my model might still be, no, it's faded. Okay, my appearance on the model. When you click on the model, it you know, it wants to, you know, darken up. So I'm happy here. Now, I can stretch this. If I want it to go a little bit further, I can stretch it out. Adjust my curve, slide it down. I'll center it here in just a second. I don't think right now, I'll say this right now, I do not believe if I hit align to center that it'll center on there, because that's the center for that. It's not the center of the mountain scene, right? Or the ribbon. So on the ribbon, I've got to, you know, I pretty much just kind of I can either outline the arc on the ribbon with a line, a nice little arc, go from one to the other, and that gives me a center line that I can center on, or eyeball it, right? Whatever, you know, whatever looks aesthetically okay. Now, what's important is my B is bigger than everything, and I don't want the B running into the border up here and the border down there. I need the B kind of split, and that's going to kind of dictate the rest of this all the way down. And if my ribbon had a slight, you see how close I am here, and on the H there, and you know, and everything. If my ribbon in my design was slightly tilted, then I would tilt the, you know, try to make it somewhat follow. But this is good. All right, now I got to get the date in there. I'm going to put the date right here. And again, I don't know the exact day. We're pushing for this. But let's see here. We're going to go. We're going to go now. Am I taking a chance by making this and putting in the September here that what happens if they go after September, right? Then I got to make a whole new sign. I would probably wait a little bit closer to delivery before I make the sign. But anyhow, but if I was making this to sell, I would put the customer's name in, all that stuff, right? So that's what we're doing. Okay, so September. Let's just go 2026. We'll just do that. Again, now this one's going to be a little bit smaller in the text. going to have also a little bit of a flow to it. Don't go crazy with the flow. Follow the, it's just a slight little tip of the text. Let's go 1 inch. All right, I'm going to change up the font on this one, on the lower one. They don't all have to be the same font. And I could go script. I could go royal signage. Let's go with just a simple, clean here. Get rid of that dramatic, oops, leave that text. I would get rid of that dramatic curve. It's too much of a curve. The little emblem down here is, kind of. Now, is this little emblem area here, is it centered with, the upper part, that kind of thing? So I could select this text here, select the name and align to the center left to right, but that throws it all off because it's not centered. This little area, center area here, which in the 3D view, let's go look at that in the 3D view. I just want to kind of be between the trees, right? That's the important part, that I'm between the trees. So in here, between the trees, this is the tree, and that's the tree. I just want to kind of be, in the center there. All right, now I have two choices. Number one, am I V-carving this into the model, right? Am I just carving the name into the model, painting it black or something, and doing a V-carve? That gives me no extra height, right? No additional height. Like if I didn't have the height in the material and stuff, and I didn't have the room to move, then I may have to choose to V-carve it, whatever the case may be. In this situation, I actually want it raised. So we're going to go into here. I want rounded edges on the letters, flat top, rounded edges, curved profile, 90 degree. I want a round over on the edge, full on 90 degree. Now, at 100% in the 3D view, first of all, this is important. If we add this model, if we add it, it's going to take on the grain that's underneath it. That's why it looks so rough, right? We're going to fix that by putting it on another level. Give me a second to get to that stage. But the dome, that's not what I want. I just want a round over with a flat edge. So 90 degree is what I want, but then I have to limit the round over. Now this is, I got to add a little bit of base height. Let me add my base height in there, 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to give myself a 1/16 of an inch of base height on this. So just a little bit of base height underneath. When I click apply, it's going to raise that up just a little bit. Now, 10 or 15, because this is a small rounder. It's a small little rounder, small little thing. So I'm going to go, let's go 15%. And click apply. It's going to flatten that out with a little bit of round over. Okay. Now, it's taking on the texture that's underneath. That's why it looks so rough. I do not want it to take on that grain texture underneath. You may. It might look cool and aesthetic and all that wonderful jazz and all, but for me, no. I want it to be nice and smooth, round over on top of this wood grain. I want it to be like an additional item. So here, first of all, let me give it a name, text. Two ways I could approach this, and here's the problem with the first way that I'm going to approach it. The problem with the first way that I'm going to approach it is because I wrote the text and I made the model with both texts selected. I made one model out of these two texts, but there's two different levels. So if I did this as a merge, so that it merged in, and I just gave it base height, so it raised it up till it got to the right height and everything, my September and my, how they would be at the same height and it wouldn't look right. It's two different levels. So mistake number one that I just made was that I had both text selected when I created this, and it should be two separate models because it's two separate levels. So first things first, on that model that I just created, it's going to go away one at a time. So I need to redo that same model, 90, 15%, 0.0625, and if I merge this, it blends in, and I would have to give it a base height high enough to where it sticks up. Now, I don't want to be guessing with numbers and everything here, and this is what I love about 12.5 and 12 and 12.5 and everything, is the ability to work in the 3D with the models and everything. I don't want to be typing in 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8 and trying to figure out what's the right number. Instead, I have three options here: my full shape height, or with the base and everything, the shape height, or the base height. In this case, I just want to control the base height. So if I grab this little circle with the base height, I can either type in a number, or I can just raise my mouse up, right? So I can get that height that I want and everything. Okay. So I can build that in. Secondly, if I didn't want to do that, okay, I could remove the wood grain from behind the letters so the area is flat and not grainy, and I could just add this to it on top, and it would be sitting on those flat areas, and it would remove that texture. So that's the second way that I could do that. What I mean by that is I want these letters to not be straight up and down like this, okay? I want them to have a draft to them. I want them to have a nice little angle so they're not so rough around the edges and everything here. The only problem is I just added 1.0565 of meat behind those letters. And if I draft the angle on that 1 inch and everything, even, you know, a small 15 degrees, it's going to flow out so much that the letters blend together, or it might even pop out of the side of them on the bottom of my model here. Creates a little bit of a problem area. These are the things that you're going to learn as you start, you know, designing and all that stuff, but it's also decisions that are going to save you in the end. Because if you, like with me, I know my structure. When I add letters, if I'm adding them on top of a texture, I always know that my letters, I like my round over with the flat top, a small round over with a flat top. That's standard for me. And I like my 11 or 15 degree angle for the small letters, 22.5 for bigger stuff and all that. But I know if I do it this way and I do my angle, it could poke right through the bottom of this banner and you just see it and stuff. So what I have to do, my procedure is always to remove the texture from behind the letters. I do that with the vectors, but not with these vectors, because these vectors are just the letters. I need the chamfer or the draft too. So here I keep my 1/16 of an inch backbone that I like, my little 1/16 of an inch. I add to the model. Add, wait for it to kick in. Click apply, close this tool, go back to the components, turn off everything except for that text. Get rid of everything except for the text. And this is, I know we're running over. I knew we were going to run. I'm sorry, we're at 1 hour, 46 minutes. We still got to price this here in a second. Let's see here. What am I doing? Rename. Upper text. Or first or name, right? You know, either one. In the 3D view, I need just this visible, okay? Just this visible. Now, in here, bear with me a second. I'm going to open it back up. 90 degrees, scale 100%. I don't know how that got lowered. I was wondering why it looked a little funky there. Scale 100%. It's important. My roundover was missing. I only had it at 5, so the roundover was, I was like, where'd the roundover go? You know, let me go with a 20 just so you can see what 20 looks like, or 25 or something. Let's go 20 so you can see the change. You can see the roundover, and it's kind of pixelated right now, but you can see the roundover a little bit better there and stuff. Whatever your number is, right? Now I'm going with a 15-degree roundover, or 15%, not degree, 15% roundover, because that's kind of what I want. I just want a small, subtle, just break the edges kind of roundover. 100%. This is 0.0625 for the base height. Click apply. Close that. Now, just the text visible, just this text. Create the draft. And I said I'm going to go 15 degrees. Apply. Okay. All that does is kind of just bring out, and let me show you extreme. I'm going to double that to a 30 degree. Apply. Okay, so all it does is it fills that in. And a 30 degree actually don't look too shabby. Now I got a real quick, so that's 30. Let me look at 15 again. That's 30. 15. Let me see if I meet in the middle. 22.5. Dog it. I like it on this text, on that particular font. I'm liking the 22.5. So that's what I'm going to go with, 22.5. So I got to remember that for the bottom text. Now that I have this, now that new little flare out, right? The new flare out, if you look here, that's my original text vector that I just clicked on, that pink line right there. Well, that's the new flare out, right? So I have to select this model and turn off the original because I have a new model with a draft, and again, rename it structure. All right, this is the upper text with 22.5 draft. Have it selected and create a new profile around it. Okay. A new profile vector around it. Okay. Now that vector, here's the magic of it all. Here's the magic of it all. Turn your components back on. I select that new outside vector. I select the model. In this case, it's the mountain scene. And I clear the area inside the vector. Now, it's important to know that I just made a hole in there. Okay? There's a hole there, the shape of the text. Now, and this, I'm going to undo that really quickly. This vector right here is not going to make or break my model. So I do not, when I select this outside vector, let me ungroup. U for ungroup, I want to turn this vector off here. And that's the only place, just there. And I'll hit G for group again to group that back together. But once again, let's do that again. Clear on the selected component. And that vector, clear the inside. Now again, that creates a hole. Now I need to build it up with a flat model. Same vector. Flat component. Not the same vector. Take that same vector, got a one more, offset it. Outward 20,000ths of an inch. I need it to blend with the its surroundings. So offset it, select the new. Now that vector is the one I want to use. So build that flat shape up. And for right now, I'm just going to put it at 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to have it merge. Okay. So I build that shape up, but now I need to actually build it up. I need to raise that shape up. And, you know, kind of I'm filling in that void. Okay. Now, I want to be a little below the surface and all that stuff. I don't want to be right at it. I don't want to be raised up too high and all that stuff. A little below the surface because my text is going to sit on top of it. The model text is going to sit on top of it. But now there's no grain or anything for it to sit on. So when I turn on my text component, it will sit in there and get rid of that grain. Now I can raise. This is, I'm going to rename this real quick. This is my under letter flat area. And with that, I can, whatever I do to this, the gel is going to raise with it and everything. And, you know, I don't want to be like crazy, right? But I want it to just sit nicely in there. Okay? Because it becomes part of the, it matches the letter, it becomes part of the background. Okay? Now, here's, you see that straight area there, and you see where my letters stop right here. That's where the draft can come into play. One, I went too high, actually, you know, you can see it right there. I want to bring that down a little bit more. So I'm going to click here. And now I'm looking at it from the side. The red area is what I'm watching. I want to come down, and I don't like the way it does that when it comes down, but I want to slowly bring that down. I think I'll be happy with. That's good. All right, now I am going to go back and change my draft a little bit. Okay, that'll help as well too. So, but I got to be careful that I don't make too much of a draft that it goes back into that texture and causes issues and all. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and turn off everything except for the original text. Original text. I'm going to draft that original text. Instead of 22, I am going to try the 30. And I have a choice of keeping it or not because I didn't delete my other text and everything. I am just all I'm doing is I'm bringing that line out so it blends a little bit better with that edge. Okay. And again, if I didn't want to go with that big of a draft, I wanted to keep my 22.5 and all that stuff, then you make whatever change it is necessary. I don't want to get hung up on that because that's all aesthetically detailing and all that. But I do want to create the last part really quickly, following the same principle as the part below that. So first of all, make the part. Profile, 90 degrees, 15, a 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. Add, apply, close. Turn off all the components, rinse and repeat. And by the way, you don't have to click on it like that. You can just, first of all, let me rename it. This is my lower text. I can right click and just say show only this. It'll turn everything else off. Draft. I'll stay with the 30 for right now. Come back in here to the components. Turn off the original. Rename the new one that it just created. Lower text with 30-degree draft. Turn everything back on that applies. By the way, let me rename this one too. Hopefully you're learning something out of this. Upper text with 30 drafts, because I'm about to give you a lesson, and we're gonna probably call it quits and do a part 2. Anybody up for a video class tomorrow, or y'all want to wait till next week? All right, let's see here. Saturday's kind of y'all's weekends. Let's not do a Saturday. Whatever. Let me know. Let's see here. We got the flat area. We've got the component 1, the mountain scene, the base model, and that lower text. Now, the lower text, once again, I've already created the draft on it, right? So now on that lower text right here, I can have it selected, the one with the draft, and I can create a boundary around that selected draft or that selected text. Okay, so now I'm gonna, on the component, which is the mountain scene, select just the mountain scene, that text. I want to remove inside the vector. Okay, once again, that was not the remove tool. I want to remove inside the vector. Okay, so that creates that hole. Then I want to build a component, flat component. I want to merge it in there, and I want to build that up. And for right now, like I said, I'll just do it at a 0.25 because I will adjust it in the 3D view. So I want to click Apply under lower text flat area. And then I can build it up. Now, this has a tilt to it. So I got to tilt it. Now, when I tilt it, I'm actually going to be tilting the flat area. So the flat area under that lower text, I'm actually going to be tilting it, and I want to tilt it. This is the thick part of the wedge. This will be the thin part of the wedge. So when I set this, I need to make sure I'm clicking up here and I'm clicking down here. Okay. That way, when I raise this up, I'm jacking up that lower end. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the tilt to where it's flat, you know, flat and consistent, you know, somewhat consistent. And then bring that down because it doesn't need to be up above that level. And then add my text on top of it. Now, I'm a goober. I'm a real goober. You see the big gap around here. It's hard to see when it's fuzzy like that, but the big gap around that circle, now that's because I didn't offset the text before I created the flat shape. Remember, I had to do it that 20 thousandths of an inch up above, right? We got a big gap going around all this. Little details, little things that get missed make big differences in the card. So what I need to do is this under text flat area here, that vector needs to be offset outward so it blends all this opening, all that stuff that's outside of the pink line. That's a big old hole. You know, it's a gap. So I need to offset it outward. We're almost done here, guys and girls. 0.02. So it blends in. Create the flat shape. 0.25. Merge it. This is the flat lower under lower text flat area. Little details. Little details. All right, we're almost there. Dadgummit. Got that 0.25. Raise that up. All right. So when I raise it up, I'm getting right at that top level there, but I'm still tilted, right? So I got to do the tilt again because this is a new one. This is a new model. Thin part of the wedge up here, thick part of the wedge down here. Add the tilt. Our goal is to try to level it out so it has a little bit of a consistent level, and then we can adjust height and everything after that. You know, we can adjust height and stuff after that. And then go back in there and turn on that lower text. Okay. Wonderful. Now, I could also go into these two components here, and I could clean up that smoothing a little bit around there and bring them back in, you know, in the smoothing tool and all that stuff. But instead, just going to make sure that it sits there, and there we go. Okay. So now, oh, by the way, before you do that, make sure that's where you want that text to sit. Hindsight being 2020, I probably would have went just a little bit lower. Anyway, let's save that work and let's move on. Okay. Now, I'm hurting right now. Save and close are right next to each other. This is why I like keyboard shortcuts. Control S would have saved me. Control S would have saved me what just happened to me. What just happened was my mind talking with you and everything, I hit close instead of save. The question came up, do you want to save your changes? Default is set to no. I hit enter, which chose no. So everything with the text and all that stuff is lost. Gone. All of it. The frame, everything back to there. Save early, save often, because there is no auto recover. Okay. Well, we are definitely going to have a part 2, ladies and gentlemen, because I have to rebuild all of that. And we're not going to do it in this class. But let's actually talk about, really quickly, let's talk about a couple of things. Okay? Let's talk about a couple things. And can you believe my there's no there's no going back. There's no saving it. Save early and save often, ladies and gentlemen. Save early, save often. You know, I don't have to hit save as, Burns. It's not save as. Save as is just giving it a name. The file already had a name. I just had to save. Control S, save. I could just, Control S, or I could go up to, file, save. And that's what I did. File, save. And now, are you telling me that I hit file, save as? I don't think you're telling me that I hit file, save as and saved it. I didn't save it as a different file. No. Let me look in my folder. Makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside when you when you do something like that. Give me just a second here. Yeah, no such luck. It wasn't a save as where I accidentally hit the wrong name or something. All right. The man alive. Can you believe can you believe it? Dark olive. All right, so my sign that I have to paint for my daughter's dark olive, at least that's, I know that information now. All right, let's see here. Let's give me just a moment. I cannot believe it. I'm so breaks your heart. I'm looking to see. Okay. We are going to we're going to have a part 2 to this. So we got to figure out what day we want to have that part 2. We don't necessarily have to wait all the way till next Friday. If y'all want to have a part 2, I don't mind doing one over the weekend. If y'all like weekend videos or anything like that, weekend classes, or we can do it Monday or Tuesday. I would like to really get through this with you guys and everything. What we, just to give you, let me give you a breakdown, okay, of what's to come or what we would learn. All right. So at the point we would be doing the toolpaths. Okay. We would be doing our pocketing toolpath versus 3D model comparison. Configuring out our step over, finer step over, less sanding that we have to do at the workbench. We would answer the question, does that extra 10 or 20 minutes on the machine, the trade-off of, do I want to run the machine carving 20 minutes longer with a finer step over so I have less sanding, or do I want to spend more time at the bench? So where do I want to spend my time, at the machine or at the bench? In the long run, your machine time is a lot less expensive than your bench time, your labor and everything. So we will learn I will be teaching you, we'll learn, about optimizing your tool paths, and then, really balancing them out, creating that system that to where I'm so devastated that I did that. That was such a dumb move. Anyhow, let's just really quickly, we were going to get into, after we tool pass and all, figure out what our run time is and our machine time and our sanding time and all that stuff, figure out what our actual production time is, and then run that through the product pricing calculator. I have the product already set up in the product pricing calculator, but what I don't have, what we were going to do in class live with one another, is we were going to look at the run time, look at our machining time. We were going to figure that out strategically, and then we were going to plug in the numbers and everything. Right now, I just have generic numbers and everything in here. I don't have exact numbers for that sign, but I want to, let me just go really quickly over the numbers with you based on what I had calculated. For that model, if I did it as a model cut and everything, it'd probably be on a smaller machine and everything about 6 hour runtime and everything. And, you know, a total of 8 hours altogether of, you know, the machine time and, you know, sanding, finish, you know, cleanup, finish, and everything. That's also counting the time of gluing up the panels and all. So 8 hours total for this project. And so total production time, 480 minutes, right? So 8 hours. And sorry, my leg is just, the packaging on this, if I was shipping this out and everything, the packaging is about $24.60, you know, standard packaging and everything. The materials and all, the cardboard and all that stuff was about $8 for the cardboard and tape and everything for that package. But on this 24 by 15, and I had it calculated for 1.5 inch material, we're at 1 inch. So there. But starting off with just a very basic select pine board, if it were just going to, you know, if maybe we were going to stain this or something and, you know, it was just going to be a pine board, not walnut, not maple, not cherry or anything like that. We can add in any kind of different materials and all. But the total machine time was about 360 minutes. So about 6 hours on the machine, something like that. 360 divided by 60 is what? 6? Yeah. 6 times 6, 36, 360. So the rough estimate, like I said, $60 sign that you would think, right? $20 for the board and, you know, a little bit of paint, a little bit of finish, you know, $5 for the can of paint, $5 net. Oh, I could sell this for 60 and y'all. When in fact, the project, the actual sell price should be $259. The shipping, the production time, 480 minutes overall time. The machine cost comes around $30.50. Running that on my big commercial machine, my 4848 commercial machine. It cost me $11.55 in material for the wood. We were using 270 cubic inches of board for that, $11.55 for the wood. The labor on this, $90 labor, $8 on the packaging, the paper and the tape and all that stuff. If I was you know, listing this on Etsy, you know, this project on Etsy and all, $5 for the store fees, the platform fees, about $25 in the sandpaper and glue and everything, all the miscellaneous stuff. And I want a 25% margin on this project. So the total variable cost, my shop cost, the things that you don't think about, come to $194.65. It cost $194.65 to produce this board. Okay, to produce the board. So to get a 25% markup and everything on this, and the $64 of the total sell price, $64 of the sell price and all would go to pay my fixed costs, the bills that come in every day and everything, and then also pay my labor costs and pay for the materials and pay for all that. So the recommended price on this at a 25% margin, $259. Now, if this was the only project I was selling, then I would need to sell, just to break even on what it costs and all, I would need to sell $34 to 35 units a month, signs of this one sign a month to break even. And if I want to make my $1,000 a month profit above, once all the bills are paid and everything is done and everybody's paid and all that stuff, I want to make $1,000 in my pocket, you know, for my profit and everything, then I would need to sell 50 of these units a month to pay everybody and pay all the bills and pay all the costs for the wood and all that stuff to keep my doors open. Those bills, whether I sell my insurance, my mortgage, my electric, my lighting, my fuel, my bits and router bits and all that stuff, everything, your taxes and all that stuff. Those bills are fixed costs. They come whether a signer goes out of that shop or not. They come every month. So the minimum, just to keep the doors open, I'd have to sell 34 of these signs, right? At $259. Now imagine if I was selling these signs at $60, right? That emotional pricing and everything. I would be out of business. I'd be closed down in a very short order of time. Now, luckily, this isn't the only sign that you're making. So with along the products and everything, all of the different products and all the cutting boards and all the signs and all your whole product inventory, those fixed costs and those overhead costs and everything are getting distributed from the sale of each of those items, not just the one. So that kind of brings it down a little bit. You know, I don't have to sell 50 a month and all to get my $1,000 profit. I just need to sell this many products and everything. So we're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about, you know, emotional pricing, just, you know, what seems fair and what seems right and all that versus what actual cost, you know, and everything just to keep the doors open and all that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to play a little bit in the PPS program that I developed and everything, which, by the way, is for sale online. You've probably seen the little commercials that I've been putting out everywhere. But we're going to not only discuss that, but give me a second here. We're going to talk about pricing mindset, right? So this is the last thing I'll say before I go. Let's just give you a little quick rundown. We're going to, you know, hobby pricing mindset, right? You know, the hobbyist versus the professional kind of thing. So the hobbyist says, okay, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm reading this off because my mind, I lost that project and it screwed my mind up. So I got to read this verbatim, but not verbatim, but you know, the board cost me $20. You know, the paint cost me $5. You know, it took me an hour to do the finish work and the glue up and stuff, not counting the glue drying time, of course. So if I sell this for $60, I'll make $35 profit, right? Which isn't too bad for each sign. $60 seems pretty fair and everything. Well, on the surface, it feels profitable, but I covered the materials. Yep. Made some money. Yep. Feel productive. Yep. But here's the rub. I didn't count for the machine cost per hour. I didn't account for the tool wear and the replacement, the setup time, the sanding time, the cleanup time, the electricity, the shop overhead, the failed prices, failed like boards if I had test boards and all that stuff to do. I didn't even pay myself yet the actual labor time. So the hobby mindset, that pricing, oh, this board cost me $20. This paint cost me $5, $60. I'm making some good money. Actually keeps me, you know, out of business, you know, and slows down. So hobby pricing measures visible cost and it ignores the structural cost. So we want to get out of that mindset, right? We want to get away from that mindset. And because those, you know, structure costs are invisible, right? You don't think, you know, they're not there, the overhead and all that stuff. They're still there, but they're invisible at that minute. They don't feel real, right? You don't feel like you have to account for it at that moment. I need to go buy a sub from Publix so I can have something to eat tonight. Hell, if I sell one board for $60, I just made $60. I can go to Publix and get a couple of subs, get some soda, get some tea, whatever, and I'm happy, right? No, it doesn't work that way. I sell that sign, I got to be able to pay the bills. I got to pay the tax. I got to pay everything, you know, those hidden costs, they don't go away. So it might feel profitable at that moment, but in the long run, it's not. So it just isn't. Now, what we're going to learn is kind of structural pricing and, you know, where it's different. So we're going to ask different questions of our products and ourselves and everything. We're going to ask, instead of asking, what did this board cost me? We're actually going to ask, what did this project cost my company, right? You know, that includes variable material costs, machine time and real shop rates, labor time, and even you know, your own time, of course, your labor time, consumables, overhead allocations, desired profit margins. All that seems real heavy and stuff, but it's not. It's really, really not. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to figure that stuff out. And I'm going to show you how pricing programs like PPS, you don't have to buy it or anything, but how, you know, pricing projects like that or programs like that can help you. but we just make it easy. Now, basically, structural pricing recognizes that your machine is not free, your time is not free, your shop is not free, right? If the business doesn't get paid for those things, it slowly starves. And that's what my book is all about as well, too. It teaches you the how to get into it helps you literally evolve from chapter 1 through chapter, I think, 17 or 18 or whatever. By the time you get to the end of the book, you'll have a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at things, and a way to easier approach your projects, your designs, how you talk with customers, all that wonderful stuff. So again, we'll keep that in the future. So here's the difference, and I'm just repeating myself now at this point, but the hobby mindset process tries to make money on the project, right? The structural pricing tries to sustain the business. Okay, one feels good at the moment, the other keeps the doors open and the lights on. All right, everybody. When do we want to do it? So let's look and see what everybody said in the chat. I'm up for any time. Save as. Let's see here. Been there, done that. No. All right. I'm seeing all the, hey, Laney. Hey, buddy. How you doing? Let's see here. Asked earlier, but is something missing from a prompt? You said you used copied before you sign off. Take off for the night. The prompt that I copied, nothing's missing. The only thing missing is the part that you have to fill in. But let me just go back up and look. Bear with me a second. Create a high resolution grayscale. Sorry, I'm looking over here. Let me read it real quick. Let me see the prompt that I copied to you. Create a high resolution retail frame. Highest possible resolution. The image must feature extremely contour well lighting. The relief itself should be made of organic flow lines, designed with no undercuts. Let me see. Describe what you want in the highest possible contrast, representing a boss relief for CNC machining. So that's the first chunk. The image must be featured all the way to the word effect. That's the second chunk. And the last chunk. No, sir, nothing is missing from the prompt. All three should be there. Those three messages should be there in the prompt. All right, all right, all right. Roger S., thank you for that. Let everybody know, level up, become a member. We'd love you to become a silver or gold member with the Spindle TV exclusive. Get discounts. Gold members get access to me once a month. They get to come on live with me on the camera during our every other Thursday night live classes. They get a 50% discount on anything sold by Build It TV LLC. Silver members get a 10% discount. And again, access to the classes and everything. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So ditto on Tuesday. Ditto on Tuesday. I'm good on Tuesday. All right. Let's do it. Tuesday. We're going to do a class Tuesday. Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we're going to do part 2 of this. I'll get everything rebuilt back up to where we were before I screwed up. Save it and everything. And then we will continue on and everything. You only see the last 2 chunks in the chat. Let me give you the first chunk again. Let me give you the first chunk again. Did everybody else miss that? First chunk. All right, here it is again. Tell me if you can see that. It should start with the word create end with the word CNC machining. Let me know if you see that. All right, let's see here. Thanks, Laney. Sorry about the misstep. Good night, all. Good night, Keith Kessler. Hey, Keith Kessler, are you still there? If you're still there, you submitted a support ticket. We need to get together on that. It was midnight. I didn't want to call you at midnight, but I need to get with you on your support ticket, sir. So let me know. I'll talk to you. I can give you a call tomorrow if you want. Let's do Tuesday. Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Your session is saved. All right, buddy, Ro. All right, everybody. Well, I hate that it ends this way. It was going to be a little bit, but we still, that's great. It's perfect. We have a lot to go over still. So part 2 will work out good. Everybody, y'all have a wonderful night. We'll see you Tuesday at 8 o'clock for part 2 of this very important project. And we'll go from there. See you.